The next thing we're going to talk about in this video is called pivot levels. Now, I did an article, I'll just bring it over here from Google. You could type in pivot levels and the power of commonality. And you could see back in October of 2003, I wrote an article. So we can click on that. All right. And it was an article I had written back, 13 years ago about pivot levels, explaining how they can be used as support and resistance, and how to use them with each other combined. Now use the platform that we had back 13 years ago wasn't as fancy as we have now these days, but the information, very, very good read. I think you can get a lot of value out of it. And if you want to and this is when I had my old company with my partner Linda Bradford Rashke. Okay, but these pivot levels are used as support and resistance, and again, you can just go search this out and take a look at that. In the MetaTrader 4 platform, you can view, navigator. Now in FX Choice is the one we're using. You can see here, let's look, pivot. They're here somewhere. Here it is, daily pivot shift. So we're going to hold the left mouse key down, draw it over, got the inputs, okay, and drop it. So what this looks like, it draws it from lagging from the prior days. What you have here is your pivot level and your levels in between your first and second and third support and resistance. There are different ways to calculate it, and the way it looks here on this calculation is they have it broken down into halves. So your pivot level is the main one. This is your pivot level. This would be S1, S2, S3. The ones in the middle a lot of times are used also as a support and resistance, but the main pivot levels are pivot support 1, support 2, support 3, and also you can look above and you have pivot, then you have resistance 1, resistance 2, and resistance 3. So these being the levels to watch for the next day. So going into the next day, looking at support and resistance from the prior day, you would look at this level and that level as a support and resistance to watch. Not to get too deep into it here, I don't want to teach about pivot levels on this video, but a good thing is to know what they do. They're moving, they move from day to day. They take the prior day's range, high and low. So what they do, just so you know, they take the prior day's range, high and low. They divide it up into three, the close, high and low. They divide it into three, and they come out with a pivot level. Then they do some additional calculations, which gives you all these additional levels. So the market the next day, the following day, this is the prior day, the following day would adhere to these levels. Okay, so again, not to get too deep into it, and if you want, you can research the video, the article I've done, where you have the main pivot, which is high, low, and close, divided by 3 from the prior day. And then resistance is the main pivot, which was created here, minus the low, and then the next one is the main pivot, which is high minus low. So I would suggest, if you really have an interest in learning about pivot points, I would revert back to this article, then install the indicator, and then start following it. But it's not something I use on a day-to-day basis. I'm just bringing it to light of what it is, because there are people that use pivot levels, or what they call daily pivot levels. There are also pivot levels for the week and the month. Let me just see if I can show you that in this article. So here's a daily chart. Well, here's a short-term chart that's called a daily. And then you have the weekly. You can just see this is a weekly. And then you have the monthly. So there are three different kinds of levels you can look at. One is the daily chart, which takes in consideration the prior day's high, low, and close. You look at the weekly, which is the prior week's high, low, and close, and then the monthly, which is the prior month's high, low, and close. And this may be a little bit too advanced for those of you that are just starting to learn, but that's okay. Nothing wrong about getting further education. You can install it and just watch it from day to day and how prices act around these prior swing highs and lows. My name is Christopher Terry. I hope you enjoyed this video.